we just got breaking news in.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back. What's going on, Dan?
That intro doesn't get old, man.
It doesn't. This is the first time, I've seen a lot of people commenting on the intro in the last couple of videos. All the credit goes to Dan over there. He wasn't here last week when we debuted that intro. So yeah, everybody make sure you give Dan his flowers on that one. That was all him.
There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that. Just kidding. But no, it was fun to make.
Yeah.
But no, it's always nice to have a live show after a win. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it was getting a little sketchy there.
Just a little bit.
Hicks hit his wall in the 6th, and Randy couldn't quite completely stop the bleeding, as he's done a bunch of times this year. And yeah, they thank you, Matt Chapman. That's all I'm gonna say. It made the mood on this show a lot better.
Yeah. Randy ran out of water in his fire hose, but it's all right. It happens. But now that Chappie bomb though, that lit all of us up. So I was hyped for that.
I genuinely did not think that was leaving the yard. I really thought it was going to be on the warning track. Oh, the cat's going to join us today. I thought it was going to be on the warning track and just, tie the game up. But yeah, pleasantly surprised.
No, I was fully expecting sack fly, but I mean, I will not complain with it.
No, not one bit.
No,
so yeah, so they pulled it out today. Since the last time we went live, I think we went live right after the Brewers series.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Ricky and I. And since then, they took 2 of 3 to the Rangers. Wasn't always the prettiest. Lost both games in San Diego. Lost a game it felt like they should have won to Colorado, but then they've won the last 2. So a whole lot of treading water there. They're 4-4 since our last live show. There are some good things, some bad things to take away from that stretch of baseball. I'll let you kind of jump in on the things that you've seen. To me, as it kind of showed in the headline here, it feels like the starting rotation is actually finally starting to stabilize a little bit. Robbie Ray's throwing well. Justin Verlander's been throwing well. Hicks kind of sort of has been throwing well. Like he just has that one inning every time where he kind of hits a wall. Roop has kind of struggled. Webb got lit up by San Diego, but overall, like he's thrown the ball really well this year. So I'm starting to feel pretty good about the rotation as, as a whole, even though I will continue to beat into the ground that Hayden Birdsong needs to start games, but I feel pretty good about it as a whole. And then, we'll talk about the offense. They've kind of sputtered, but they're showing some life. There's like 3 guys in particular that have been pretty rough this year that are so important to this team that are showing life. So, what have you kind of seen the last week or so?
Well, firstly, I want to touch base on your comment about treading water. I joked about it with you and Ricky earlier. Hey guys, Giants fans, let's stop doing the wave at Oracle. Thank you. Just going to put that out there. Tread enough water as it is. But no, to kind of piggyback off your comments there, it's nice to see the starting rotation kind of solidify. Guys, don't mind Cody. He's chewing away a cat.
It's way back there. Like, no, I'm not going anywhere.
But no, it's nice to see the starting rotation kind of solidify a bit. Even though, as you pointed out, Hicks is probably destined to be a 4 to 5 inning pitcher max. Once he gets, that 5th, 6th inning, he kind of gets gassed, and you see what happened today happen. But before that, I was perfectly happy with it. Robbie Ray, he's looking great. I'm super hyped to see his start. I believe we're undefeated in his starts, which is great to see. Webby, like you mentioned, kind of got lit up a little bit, but Webby's going to be Webby. He's always going to bounce back, always going to be your ace. Verlander, he's decent enough. Nothing crazy, but he's not, holding the team behind anyway. And as you mentioned, Roop's kind of struggling a little bit. It'd be nice to see Birdsong, get into the rotation somehow, some way, sometime soon. He came in relief yesterday and pitched great, so I was super happy to see that. But now the 3 that you're pointing out as far as the offense is concerned, which is the offense, quote unquote, on this team. It's the heart of your lineup, which the lineup's kind of based around these 3 guys, and it's nice to see them show some life, which is Chappie, Ramos, and Adames. So they've all started doing their thing, picking up slowly but surely. Three of them definitely were very, very cold for the last few weeks. So it's nice to see them, see some pop in their bats. You saw with Chappie today, you saw with Willie the other day, and Ramos too. So it's nice to see them start to get going. In the green room, we kind of touched on it. Jung Hoo Lee's getting a little bit cold, but he came through today with a clutch RBI single. So
Yeah.
he's always going to make solid contact. I'm not too concerned about him. There are a few black holes in the lineup, which we'll dive into more. Um, that. But bullpen was solid these last few games. Obviously today didn't really go Randy's way, but now just in general, it's encouraging to see all three aspects of the team start to trend upwards to an extent. It would just be nice to see all three phases truly take off together. I think that's when you'll start to see the team flourish. But overall, up and down week, but not too concerned with anything in particular.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the offense, like you kind of touched on it. Like there's three guys. Lee's he's cooled off. You can always count on him though. It feels like to give you a quality at bat in a big spot. Even when he's not necessarily swinging at the best, like his at bat quality is phenomenal. So like I'm not concerned in any way about Jung Hoo Lee like going in some big funk or anything like that. Sometimes the hits just don't fall. He's had a little bit of bad luck in there. I'm not going to make the bad luck excuse. It is what it is because I'm tired of hearing it from people pushing for Wade and all these guys saying that they're unlucky. But it has happened. And similar with a few of the other guys that just, you lose a guy like Tyler Fitzgerald, that's going to kind of hurt your offense a bit. And Wilmer, he's really cooled off. But luckily, the guys that you are counting on in the biggest ways being, Ramos, Adames, Chapman, those guys are all starting to pick it up. And that's a really good sign because this team is going to really only get deep into they're only going to be a playoff team or anything like that if you get big time production out of those three. It's the start has been great. I don't think it's really even debatable that it's not a sustainable way to win games over 162 the way they've had to do it through 30 games. And we've kind of seen that how in like recent weeks, it's been a lot of basically 500 ball because it's a lot of what we saw in 2023, 2024, where you'd have days where the offense shows up and the starter gets lit up. Or, you have a great game, you carry a lead, the bullpen has one of its bad days. Tyler Rogers, who's been phenomenal all year, has one of his 2 or 3 stinkers that he's going to put up and cost Verlander a win. The pitching throws well and you give them 0 run support, and it's just it's been a little bit of that. They're still they're not playing losing baseball, so it's not time to hit the panic button or anything like that. But you are kind of seeing a little bit of the flaws of the way the team is built. But if some of these guys get going and your starting rotation is, like I said earlier, stabilizing and starting to give you quality start, we know how good their bullpen is. And over, a long season, I'm going to bet on our bullpen more than most teams' bullpens every day of the week. So it's just the offense needs to get a little more consistent. I think we're going to see in the next month, I think that's when we're going to start seeing some changes to the lineups and everything. You've mentioned a couple of the black holes. One of them we're going to talk about later because frankly, he's not going anywhere, but it just needs to be talked about. And the other one, Lamont Wade Jr., frankly, he's on a clock right now. You've got Harar who's taking swings again. And then you have Casey Schmidt, who's, I think the report was he's returning to baseball activities. So, we'll see how much longer it is till those two return. But I mean, I don't think there's any way you can justify continually trotting Lamont Wade Jr. out there. Dan, I don't know if you saw it. Jeff Young the other day had a tweet where he said, Lamont had hit safely in like 4 out of 5 games. But then you look at his lineup. I put the Infinity War Thanos, where it's like all that for a drop of blood, because you look at his numbers and he was hitting like 128, and it's like, great, he's hit safely in 4 or 5 games, and you look at his average in those games and it's still like 220.
Yeah.
and he's still only hitting like a $128 on the year. So it's like we've reached the point with that guy that I'm like just counting the days till Harar's back. And he's not the greatest defender. I don't care at this point. I am, Wade's not the greatest defender either. Yeah, he's probably a little bit more reliable than Harar, but I have a lot more faith in Harar right now at the plate. So,
yeah. I don't want to go too hard on Wade. I feel like I've done a lot of that.
That's good, Mark. That's good.
That's good. I feel like I've done a lot of Grill and Lamont Wade Jr., but I mean, what more can I say that I haven't said? This is what we saw the last, 3 months of the season last year. This is why it was destined to be Harar's job in spring training before he got injured. And I think once he's back, which from what I'm hearing should be within the next 10 to 13 days, you've got to pencil him to your lineup. You've got to pencil him on pretty much a daily basis. And Wade's got to be the odd man out in your lineup, especially if this trend continues over the next 2 weeks. So it's one of those things where you are going to have to make some tough decisions over these next few weeks. Once Harar comes back, once Casey comes back, once Fitz comes back, you are going to have to shuffle up the roster a little bit. And as you mentioned, I feel like that's when you're going to start seeing some shuffling to the lineup occur as well. It's just a matter of when, not if. So, yeah, I mean, you're not getting any production in any way, shape, form out of Lamont Wade Jr. right now. Not defensively. We've seen tons of miscues. Not offensively. Like you said, he's batting $126. Fans are saying it's bad luck. His expected batting average is like 203. So how much of that really is bad luck? So it's time to cut ties. So I'll give him a couple weeks. Thank him for all he's done. I mean, Austin Slater got DFA'd last season with, I believe it was about 90 at bats on the season. He was batting 200. I was like, we've reached about 90 at bats on the season for Wade, and he's about $120, $130. So for as bad as Slater looked last year, and it was a no-brainer to DFA him, I don't know why it's this difficult of a decision with Lamont Wade Jr.
Yeah, and I am such a believer in getting ahead of the curve. Yeah. I hear a lot of people, and I understand, like, there's kind of two sides to that coin. There's the, you overreact and make a move too fast. But there's also you don't wait for the bottom to fall out to make a move. And, that's the hard thing. It's always been, they're winning. You don't mess with winning and blah, 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 blah. But it's like, what do we want to wait until he's still not producing and now our offense can't score runs, which is starting to rear its head a little bit in the last couple of weeks where our offense has really struggled. And we've got, I'm looking right now at the lineup from today, and we have, a couple of these guys aren't going anywhere, but you have Adames hitting 215. You've got Chapman hitting 205. And then you have Wade, Bailey, Matos, 125, 161, 167. Now, Matos, I pointed it out in a tweet today. It's hard. He's not playing every day. It's clearly wearing on the guy, but he had 3 quality at bats today. And the biggest takeaway I had from that was he saw 9 pitches out of the zone, and he didn't swing at any of the 9 pitches that were out of the zone. So 0 chase today. He had great at bat quality. Hopefully he can build off it. I don't have faith that he can build off it because he's playing once a week, but good for him to have a good day. But you have, our 4 or 6 through 9 hitters on any given day are giving us 0. And you just can't operate with a lineup that only 5 dudes give you anything on a daily basis. So it's some changes need to happen no matter how much they're winning. Like at some point you've got to try and find a way to get ahead of the curve and get some guys in there that can swing it a little bit.
And to your point with the whole comment, like, well, you don't want to switch things up when they're winning. Those black holes in the lineup that need to be switched up, they aren't contributing to the wins.
Yeah.
So how are you hurting yourself? You can literally only go up. Making those moves probably solidifies those wins. The vibes. Yes, sir, Larry. The vibes. No, it's a difficult conversation. Just, Lamont Wade Jr.'s got a soft spot in a lot of Giants fans' hearts, but we've been through this before with some truly legendary Giants players. It might suck, emotions wise for a couple weeks, but once you start seeing the production actually occur out of that first base position in your lineup, you turn a page, you move on. So yeah, it has to happen sometime soon because it's like you mentioned, it's not sustainable to have 2 or 3 automatic outs in your lineup if you're trying to contend for a wild card spot come October. Yeah. It's just not sustainable. Yeah. And these are the wins that matter. These are the games that matter. Losing a winnable game in Colorado because you had 0 offense. I mean, that's a win that you're going to need come September if you're competing for a wild card spot. So that's why it's like, yes, it's still fresh into the season. We're 6 weeks into it, but the clock's ticking, and you got to make a move soon.
Yeah, I mean, how many times last year did I get on this team for basically, and I understand the argument of you want to play your best ball in September, October, and I agree. Like, you want to be peaking in those months, but how many times did I get on this team last year because I said the wins in April still count the same at the end of the year as the wins in September. And the fact that last season in April and May, they were just outright punting games with their lineups at times where you would look and they'd have like Dalton Jeffrey starting a game with 4 dudes hitting under 200. And it's like, we're not going to win this game. We're not going to beat the Padres with that lineup or the Red Sox or whoever. Like, that's just not going to happen. And they didn't. They lost like every single time they did put out a lineup like that. And it bit them. I mean, now they didn't finish particularly close last year, so it didn't end up mattering. But this is a team that right now is, right there in the thick of the division race. So it's like, you can't be throwing away these games early. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're 20, 21 and 13. So I don't want to get too far down the negative on this. Like, that is just, it's something that I feel like you need to address because especially with Bailey, he's not going anywhere. Like, there is nothing that this team can really do at that position. So you're kind of just sticking him in there and hoping to God that he can, figure out how to connect with the ball at some point. Today he hit a nice double. Actually looked a little spry getting to second base. I didn't think that. I think Ricky said it earlier. Last year he probably gets hosed at second on that play. So he looked like he's moving pretty well, which that's good. But, with him, you're kind of stuck. But the other black holes in the lineup, that's fixable or at least addressable. Maybe it doesn't end up fixing it. But
yeah, and here's the thing. The Giants started the season 8-1. Since then, they've gone 13-12. You're starting to see the flaws in the lineup show, which is reflective of what this team's identity has been for the last couple of years, which is a 500 ball club. I mean, 13-12 since, the hot start in the first 2 weeks of the season, that's the epitome of it. And like Mark said, any injury to the hitter 1 through 5 position, they're in trouble. It's true. If something happens with Lee, Ramos, Chapman, or Adames, like, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Then
Lee especially.
Yeah. Then you're screwed, dude. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's obviously too early to hit the panic button, but like you mentioned, these winnable games in April, May, June are what's going to cost you come September. Because like you said, last season, we finished 82 wins, I believe, 83 wins, something like that.
80 and 82.
80 and 82.
9 games out. They weren't super
so
close.
We had 80 wins last season. I mean, those 6, 7, 8, those handfuls of games earlier in the year where you made boneheaded decisions like you just pointed out where you probably could have won. That's the difference between you making the wild card or not. And we don't want to see history repeat itself this season. So like you said, it's one of those things where come mid-May, if you're still getting 0 production out of, that black hole, that 6 through 9 spot in your lineup, it's time to make a move. Like Mark said, whether you go and evaluate the trade market or whether you do what I think you should do, which is just plug Harrar in every day at first.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the short term is you go with Harrar because the reality is for Mark, like, how many teams how many teams trade guys, especially good players, early in the season? You know,
Few
we
does
saw
it.
Luis Arias last season, and but prior to that, I can't think of really that many. And with Arias, like the Padres paid a pretty penny to get him. That's the only reason he got dealt as early as he was. So is it possible? Maybe, but a lot of teams do tend to hold out. I haven't looked super deeply at the standings around the league. I don't know where teams like the Rays stand for like a guy like Yandy Diaz. Um, I couldn't tell you guys on that, but it's pretty hard to envision something. I know some people have brought up, and I'm all for it if you could get a deal done. I know some people have brought up like trying to swing a deal with like the Orioles for Kobe Mayo, and it would be a strength from a strength at that point because he's kind of blocked in Baltimore. But the problem is, what are the Giants going to be able to offer that the Orioles really want? I don't know. That's the hard part because you would just think from their standpoint, if I'm just looking at it from like the Orioles point of view, you would think that they're going to want to trade for a more proven piece, major league piece, especially in the rotation. And I don't think the Giants have that to offer. They have like Hayden Birdsong, who I would absolutely not trade in that deal personally. So that's the tough part.
I'd maybe consider Kyle if you can package him in a deal. It's just I don't know if Baltimore would do it.
Yeah, and that's the hard thing. It's like I think the Giants have what would be a fair offer. I just don't think it's what Baltimore is looking for.
Yeah.
If they're going to make that deal. Because I think you could package Kyle and another like middle tier starting pitching prospect, not like not a Wisenhunt, but or necessarily like a Whitman, but kind of that next tier down.
Yeah.
I think they could package something like that and it would be a fair price, but I just don't think that's what Baltimore wants. They're going to want proven arms.
Yeah.
So, and Kyle is kind of proven.
Somewhat.
Somewhat proven. So,
yeah, it'd be a dream come true. You know how I feel about Kobe Mayo, but
Duke and mash.
Yeah, but it's wishful thinking. But no, like you said, the short-term answer is you plug in Harar every day. Whatever you do with Wade, whether you throw him on the bench, whether you DFA him, trade him for something, but that decision's going to come, and it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, I believe.
Yeah, and and for anybody that's going, oh, it's early in the year, I'm going to say the same thing I said about Austin Slater last year. It applies to Wade. It frankly applies to Bailey, though Bailey's not going anywhere. These are not slumps that are spanning 40 games or 35 games. These are slumps that span months of the previous season and the first 35 or 40 games or whatever of this season. So it's just at some point, like you don't get to just hit reset when the season ends. Like if you continue a slump into the next season, it's a problem. Like that is 3 or 4 months of regular season playing time that we've seen very poor production. So yeah. And I agree with Thomas here. I think they're only going to win if the pitching is consistently pitching is consistent because that needs to be, that needs to be the stamp of this team or the identity of this team. And the offense just needs to pull its weight for most of the games.
Absolutely.
So one more person before we jump over to, this was a little while ago from Paul. What about Wisely? Should we demote him? They can't right now because their depth is being tested.
Yeah.
Fitzgerald is out and he has a rib fracture.
That can take some time.
Yeah, who knows how long that is? He's on the 10-day IL, but I mean, in baseball, you have two options. It's the 10-day IL or the 60-day. So 10-day doesn't necessarily mean he's back in 10 days. It's just minimum.
Yeah. That could linger, but I think once Casey comes back, it's inevitable that Wisely goes down.
Yeah, it depends on what they do with Wade.
That's going to be the biggest outlier there.
Because let's say Harar and Casey come back before Fitz. I think that'll be a safe bet, but you just never know. If those two come back, it's like who are the first two to go down?
I would assume VR,
Yeah.
and then probably Wisely. But then you're overstacking the first base position and lightening your infield depth at that point. Because then you've just got Casey and Willie in the middle and no one else. And then at first base, you've got first base / DH, you've got a mixture of, Wade and Wilmer and Harar, which it's too lopsided. So that's why I'm saying, like, you got to make a decision about Wade soon. Because last thing you want is what happens if one of your middle infielders goes down. Then why you're going to plug Wilmer out there in an emergency situation because you got no depth.
Yeah, I mean, that leaves us with basically Willie, Koss, and Schmidt that can play short or second. Which, I mean, there's 3 guys, but that's not exactly ideal. Like, if one dude gets dinged up in a game or you pinch hit and then a guy, like you said, we could throw Wilmer Flores out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that'd be the greatest range out of a second baseman anyone's ever seen.
Can you imagine?
So, yeah, I mean, he used to play it, so I mean, yeah,
he'll be running like he's got cement blocks for on his shoes. Just trying to.
Every hitter will be trying to do a drag bunt past the pitcher so he has to charge.
It was like yesterday. Was it yesterday or today when Wilmer hit one in the gap? I think it was yesterday. And any other player, it's an automatic triple. And you can just see it in his body language. As soon as he rounded first, he was like, "Yep, I'm sticking it."
Drop an anchor, guys.
Yeah, that was funny. But no, you're gonna have to make some decisions. I mean, do you send Koss down and keep Wisely up because he's a left-handed bat, and just go send Koss and VR back to sack? Like, what do you do?
I don't think they do. Well, in VR, you have to DFA. So,
you're
you
right.
Have to play the waiver game again with him.
You're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, which I don't think they care about. If I'm being honest,
I don't think
they've already done it once. Like, I don't think they care.
I will give VR some props though. He's had some good-looking swings.
Yeah,
I mean, he's not getting a bunch of playing time, but he looks a lot more comfortable at the plate. He's driving it the other way.
He is a lot of the same issues that we're seeing with Matos, a lot of the same issues you saw with Huff early in the year, who, by the way, is starting to swing the bat pretty well now that he's getting a couple starts a week.
And field very well.
Yeah. I mean, as long as you don't ask him to block something in the dirt, he looks fine back there.
The trailer.
It's true.
It's true.
But yeah, they I don't know. They got some decisions. I could see Wisely sticking around. I could, just because of the lack of depth in the middle infield. But I think it depends on what you want to do. I mean, are we going to just run the platoon again at second base?
It's funny. This 26-man roster is so right-handed heavy, like offensively speaking, but we struggle the most against lefties.
Yeah.
I find that really interesting, and I find it interesting how nobody's even talking about it, because that was the biggest gripe going into the season. Like, oh, there's no lefties. It's like, bro, we can't even hit a lefty. We have all right-handed hitters.
Yeah.
So I just want to point that out. It's pretty funny. But now I want to. I know Ricky's been adamant about this all season, but I want to see Huff get more starts on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah,
we need Slater. No, we do not.
The lefty Slayer.
No, we do not.
Oh man, yeah, no. I think Huff has earned more starts, and we'll just let that segue us into our next topic of discussion.
You crack my knuckles a bit.
We might be getting a caveman rant here. Sorry, and that's Patrick Bailey, who. Listen, everybody. I'm gonna start off this by heaping praise on Patrick Bailey, and that is his defense has a lot of the things that last season I was super hard on Patrick Bailey about. There's like a laziness in his game. There's the lack of blocking balls in the dirt. There's just a lot of little things, little nuances with the position that bug me. He leaves his hand unprotected, his throwing hand unprotected sometimes. Took a couple foul balls off it last year. Didn't try and block balls that in the dirt that were very easily blockable. And it wasn't like issues with the one knee mechanic where it was like laterally off to a side to where he just couldn't physically get over. It was like stuff right in front of him. There were a lot of things that just laziness kind of shows up on the tape. And last year he cleaned up his throwing. This year his blocking has looked so much better behind the plate. He's really turned into a well-rounded defensive catcher. So I want to start this off by just giving him credit there where it's due. But holy crap, get this guy a tennis racket. Like, he can't hit at all. It is so ugly right now with him up at the plate. They're talking about the torpedo bat like it's going to make a difference. The guy's like first percentile in whiff and K percentage in the major leagues. Last time I checked, you kind of got to make contact with the ball for the torpedo bat to do anything for you. Like, this isn't a matter of him barely missing the sweet spot. He's just not even like coming close. And yeah, he hit a double today. Whoop-de-doo. He's hitting a $161 with a 454 OPS in 890 at bats in his career. He has 15 home runs in 180 less at bats. Madison Bumgarner hitting 19. Like, he's got Madison Bumgarner's career OPS or career average in OPS was 174 and 524 or 176 and 524. He's hitting worse than a freaking pitcher, man. Like, this is so unacceptable what he's doing at the plate. And I am not going to sit here and I have already said he's not going anywhere. Patrick Bailey is going to be the Giants starting catcher this season. He is probably going to be their starting catcher next season. The reality is there are just not better options for Buster Posey, like in the immediate, to fix this problem. But you look up and down the Giants system and it's just barren when it comes to that position. This is something that needs to be addressed. And I'm not trying to disrespect, Sam Huff. I think he's fine as a backup. That's totally fine. But there are not other viable options to even like push Patrick Bailey. And as far as I'm concerned, Patrick Bailey has had 2 years as the undisputed starting catcher with nothing in the system to push him. And he's not doing anything at the plate to give you any kind of confidence. And that is why yesterday, when I sent out the tweet to just throw a chaos grenade into Giants Twitter, even though if anybody read the follow-up tweet, they'd realize I wasn't saying, hey, go dump Bailey on the street for a bag of peanuts. The Giants have got to draft a catcher in either their first round pick, third round pick, fourth round pick. I don't care. They've got to go take a college catcher with starting upside, because it basically would just put a clock on Patrick Bailey. I would actually prefer first round. There's a few guys. Luke Stevenson has some nice potential. I would love to see them take a guy like Luke Stevenson and, basically put a 1.5 to 2.5 year clock on Patrick Bailey of, dude, you got the rest of this year, you got next year to figure it out, and possibly even the year after. But if you don't, you're going to end up being a journeyman. And, I see so many people that go, well, the defense is the only thing that matters. He's winning a Gold Glove. It doesn't matter if he hits like this. That's bull. Ricky, I knew of a couple of these guys. Ricky mentioned more, but Maldonado over in Houston, Tucker Barnhart, Roberto Perez. I think there was one more. I'm forgetting the name, but like, these are all guys that won Gold Gloves. And did they see a second contract with the team they were on? Hell no, because they can't hit at all. They're not major league hitters, so they bounce around. And that's, I've always said, what do you call a great defensive catcher that can't hit at all? One of the best backups in the league.
Yeah.
And that's what he would be if he can't figure it out. So go draft a catcher. And for anybody that's like, oh, well, it's not a need, blah, blah, blah. 2009, the Giants' second round pick was Tommy Joseph, who was a catcher. They took him 1 year after drafting Buster Posey 5th overall. And then they were like, all right, we've got another catcher in the system, guy with starting potential. They went Posey, wins Rookie of the Year. He gets hurt in 2011. So they held on to Joseph because they would have been stupid to move on. And what if it was career ending for Buster? Buster comes back in 2012, plays like an MVP, and the Giants went, cool, we're good at catcher. We're going to go ahead and trade this guy for Hunter Pence. if Bailey figures it out, you just trade the guy that you drafted in the first. A couple years later, catchers retain value. It's like shortstops and center fielders; they retain value. So to me, it's not rocket science. Like it is the obvious move right now to put some pressure on him, kind of light a fire under him, try and get him to actually develop a little bit at that side of his game. But that's where I'm at. I said a caveman rant. It turned into one of mine.
Ooh, bro, you got me fired up.
Yeah. So what do you think there, Dan?
Yeah, caveman rant. You guys know how I feel, man. It's like I've always been hard on Bailey because I want to see Deuce succeed because he is so gifted behind the plate as a catcher. On defense, he is so gifted. If he can just be an average hitter, he'd be one of the best players in all of baseball. The problem is that he is so far below average. He's in the bottom 3 percentile for all hitters. That's not good, and it's not a matter of luck. His expected batting average is 169. He's hitting right at where he's expected to. He comes up to the plate looking just utterly defeated before the at-bat even begins. He's not putting any contact in the ball. Yes, Jeff Young pointed out today was the hardest hit ball that he's had all season. That's great. I'm super happy you were able to hit the ball. We need this on a more consistent basis. He's an automatic out in the lineup. I mean, I was pulling some numbers, and I don't want to drop names, but a certain catcher on a different team in a game and a half, he got on base 6 times, and Patrick Bailey had gotten on base 8 times in the last 15 games combined. So, because you look at these metrics here, and it's just otherworldly. It's dumbfounding to me. I mean, what do you do, my guy? And we're not asking for bro to be Buster Posey 2.0. Nobody's going to be Buster Posey. He was a one-of-one unicorn. We're asking for growth when it comes with the bat. Patrick Bailey has been on a downhill trend ever since he entered the league. His rookie season, he hit 233 with 7 home runs and a 644 OPS. Not great, but definitely not the worst. All right, following year, 234, about the same average, 8 home runs, cool. 637 OPS. That took a slight dive. This season, 161 with a 454 OPS. You're going the wrong way, brother. You're trending downwards. We all know he's a great catcher. I got a lot of respect for him stepping up with his blocks. If you look at the prior years of blocking, he was average to below average. Let's take a look. See, look, rookie season,
percentile, rookie year, got to closer to average last season,
and now he's
well above.
Yeah, that's great. You're a well-rounded defensive catcher, and you're sharpening your tools to even be better behind the plate. That's wonderful. This day and age in baseball, you need to be able to hit somewhat to an extent. It is unsustainable for a major league lineup to even attempt to contend for a wild card spot or playoff spot, or even in the best division of all of baseball, when your 6 through 9 hitters are pretty much automatic outs. You see this downward trend that Cody's pointing out on the right-hand side. That is not going to keep you as an everyday starter in the big leagues. I'm sorry. So yes, like he pointed out, there is zero depth in the system. That's, the biggest reason why he's got it smooth sailing and not having any competition. But you have to build up your farm system. And like Ricky's been saying, like Cody's been saying, like I've been saying, you got to draft a catcher early. I want to go round 1. I want to go Luke Stevenson if it's up to me, or even I think Ike Irish as well. He's more of a project. Stevenson would probably be the better pick, but I wouldn't be opposed to either or. But you have to address the catching position in your system, because if Bailey continues on this downhill trend offensively, you're going to have no choice but to pull the plug. He's not going to get a second contract no matter how good of a defender he is. You cannot be regressing as a hitter in your age 25 season. And here's the thing that everyone pointed out over the last couple of years. They say Patrick Bailey, and he gets, fatigued after June, July. And, it's a lot of, defensive, been a catcher defensively. There's a lot of wear on the body, blah, 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 blah. Okay, cool. We've seen it for the last 2 years that Bailey's been on a downhill trend offensively after and around the All-Star break. He's on a downward trend in April, in May. And this is him feeling fresh physically and feeling at his best, and supposedly came in great shape this spring. If this is him at his best physically, what is he going to be at in the second half of the season? How much worse are we going to get? So, like Cody said, we give him our flowers, man, for, being sharp defensively and improving on some of these smaller things that he struggled with defensively. Bravo to you, man. But you cannot be getting worse while you're entering your prime years as a ball player behind the plate, or at the plate, I should say. So, yeah, you got to draft a catcher early, or you got to improve hitting, or even a combination of the both.
Yeah.
Preferably, we would love to see both. I want to see Bailey turn into a solid hitter with elite defensive skills. Cool. You're a top 15, 20 player in the game, buddy. Yeah. But you're not even a top 10 catcher with hitting metrics like this. I don't care how good you are defensively.
No. And people wanted to tell me before the year that he was better than Cal Raleigh.
You guys are smoking something.
Cal Raleigh is where it's at, man. That dude, I love that guy.
Dude's a beast.
I would have, yeah. Freaking, he's like 98th percentile defense and just hits dingers.
and you made a point earlier today. It's like, would you rather have a player that is in the 75 percentile, fielding, and 25 percentile
50? It was 100th percentile defense with 20th percentile offense, which is generous for Bailey right now, because as we've seen, his run value or whatever has been like 12th and 10th percentile, and right now it's 3rd. So I'm being generous here, but would you rather go 100th percentile defense with 20th percentile offense, or would you rather have 75th percentile defense with 50th percentile offense? Basically a good, not great defender that is a league average hitter at that position. To me, it's not even a question.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
I don't need the greatest defender in the league at the position. Give me a really reliable, good one, and then a guy that's going to, not be a black hole in your lineup. Gives you something.
Yeah.
Now, granted, am I willing to take a little below average if he's decent? Yeah, absolutely. If you want to look at like WRC plus, which is going to measure you like relative to league average, he doesn't need to be at 100, which is considered league average. If he's playing defense like he is now, if he's 85th to 90th percentile, I'd probably just take it. Not percentile. If he's 85th to 90th 90 WRC plus, meaning he's like 10 to 15% worse than league average, I would take that. That's fine. Like that's, as you mentioned, that is going to be one of the most valuable players in the game at that point. So it's just right now, I think he has like a 23 WRC plus, meaning he's 77% worse than league average.
Yeah.
He's basically like the Aaron Judge of sucking offensively. Like where Judge is like 80% better than league average, Patrick Bailey's like 80% worse. Like, I don't.
That was a perfect analogy.
I just, it's so ugly, man. But let's unshare this. And then we've got Nathan commented. Thank you, Nathan. Shout out. Patrick Bailey was a hot hitter when he first came in. Since then, he sucked offensively. Good defensive player, and that's why he's still here. And I'm gonna keep it PG, but he's not a good hitter. Let's be honest. No, you're right. I mean, it's just he's ridden a hot opening month of being in the majors, and then he's struggled basically the rest of his rookie year. Then his set last season, he rode about a hot 1.5 to 2 months, and then he struggled. And it's just, I don't know what the answer is. I've said at least give up the switch hitting, get rid of the right side. Somebody pointed out he actually has a higher average in OPS from the right side, which is kind of crazy, even though in his entire career he is like you look at his pro career before he even got to the majors, he had like a 450 OPS against left-handed pitching as a right-handed hitter and like a 900 OPS from the left side. So I think there's just more upside and track record from that side in its entirety. But I don't know what the answer is for him. He's got to just put the work in this offseason, probably.
I mean, I've been saying that for 2 off seasons, so this is just who he is. But you want to see some sort of improvements. But yeah, thanks for the 10 though, Nathan. Shouts out you. And yeah, Jeff, that's what we're saying. You know, if you can just bring somebody in to put some pressure on the guy, maybe that'll, you know, get him going. But it's hard because he's had zero pressure for 2 years. He was guaranteed the job when Farhan drafted him, even though Bart had only been in for a couple of years and hadn't even really established himself as being the guy. I mean, he already knew he was on his way out and Bailey was on his way in, and he hasn't had any competition since. So it's the only thing I can think of. Clearly, the torpedo bat's not doing anything.
Yeah,
but
I don't know, man.
Whatever.
Yeah,
what's up, Darius? Though.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
Eli Whiteside average. I can think of, dude. Whiteside's been out the game for like 13 years, and I can think of more clutch hits that he's had than Bailey. Only one I can think of is that one walk-off against Pittsburgh and the single that he had just a few weeks ago. Besides that, I can't think of much.
Yeah, he's had a few, and it's kind of funny because I'm like, he has this reputation as a super clutch hitter. And like I can think of a few. I mean, he had the Mets home run a couple of years ago. He actually had a grand slam late against the Mets last season. The walk-off against Pittsburgh, the walk-off against Texas a couple of years ago, where he as a rookie. And but it's like, you know, you can point to the good stuff, but then I can also point to like a good dozen times where he struck out in like the 9th inning of a 1-run game looking. And I'm like, dude. Like, what are we doing? So it's just it's a double-edged sword there. But I mean, you know, to everyone's point, like there's kind of 2 ways you can treat a young player. And I've always been a big advocate of like, okay, give these guys runway, kind of clear the way for them, like let them get comfortable. I think we're kind of beyond that point with Bailey, and we've reached the point of it's time to light a fire under his ass to improve, because it ain't working. And whatever they're doing, it's not working. So let's put some pressure on him. And it, like, you know, like I said earlier, it's not an immediate thing. It'd be a 1.5 to 2.5 year clock, but he'd need to know, like, you're either going to turn it around or you're going to be elsewhere in a couple of years. So, and I'd imagine he wants to get a good, you know, pretty hefty contract. And I don't think teams are going to be lining up to give this dude a 9-figure contract when he's hitting sub Mendoza.
Yeah. And I mean, as you kind of touched on earlier, if you're a defensive only catcher, you're being signed for that backup catching job. Like, you're not getting elite Cal Raleigh money. Like, you just aren't. So that's how it's been in the league forever. So yeah, you got to do something. And like Cody mentioned, this isn't us saying, oh, bench him now, play Huff every day, trade him, DFA him, blah, blah. Like, no, obviously he's got some sort of value because
he's the best option they have.
Yeah, and he's the best option. But you got to start looking ahead.
Yeah.
And you can't have him being an automatic out in the lineup every day. So if that means getting Sam Huff and one more start per week, just because his bat has that much more potential, then by all means, you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, even defensively speaking, yesterday with Huff, I mean, he's not a great defensive catcher by any means. He nailed a runner that was attempting to steal. He caught the first shutout of the season. So
hasn't he thrown more runners out this season than Bailey?
I think Ricky pulled a stat, and Huff's thrown out 7 and Bailey's thrown out 9. And this is
granted, they run on Huff more. Like, Bailey has a rep,
but still, he's absolutely competent as a catcher.
Yeah,
like you mentioned, he's not a great blocker by any means, but he clearly has an arm.
He's a bit Bart-esque back there. Now, granted, Bart has turned himself into a great blocker. He's actually like 80 something percentile blocking. Like he's actually a great blocker, but he's not like the greatest pop time. He doesn't have the greatest. Now, Bart has a absolute cannon for an arm. He doesn't have a great pop time, but he throws it on a line and pretty accurately. Huff has a great arm. Again, not great pop time. That's where Bailey shines, is he just gets it out of his glove quick, and he's actually pretty accurate for the most part.
Got bailed out by Willie, I will say.
Yeah, he did get bailed out yesterday.
But he's got a super quick release, and that's what he's best known for. So
yeah. He gives his guys a chance. Like, even with a slow pitching, a notoriously slow, mound to home pitching staff, he gives his guys a chance most of the time, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the funny one I hear from people is that, Buster loves Patrick. He's never going to move on from him. And I'm like, are we sure? Like, because it doesn't really behoove Buster to go out there and bag on the dude that's a starting catcher and be like, oh, I'm not committed to this guy and he's not good, when there weren't better options or someone else, an alternative option in there. I think his actions are going to speak a lot higher about how he feels about Bailey currently if he goes out and drafts a first round catcher, and everyone's gonna be like, oh. So
you got to imagine that Buster recognizes it. I mean, he was one of, if not the best offensive catcher in the league for years. So he understands the importance of it.
Yeah.
Shouts out Nathan again, though.
Yeah, big shout out, Nathan. Casual fan opinion. Adames' positive attitude is making a difference. I think it's a twofold thing. It's easy to see the stuff on the field where he's just, you can tell he's out there having fun. When he's playing, he's having fun in the dugout with the guys. Somebody mentioned today, it's like the Giants celebration is basically Willie Adames like undressing his teammates as they come in after a home run or something. Like, he's clearly the vibes guy, so to speak, but it's also a leadership thing. Yeah, Harris says Willie makes the team play loose. He's been known as a great leader. Every clubhouse. I think Chapman is a great leader and Weber great leaders in more of the kind of traditional, we're going to go about the game the right way. We're going to, be an example to everybody on like how you play the game, how you prepare, yada, yada. Willie is a different type of leader, but not any like lesser than of a leader than the other guys, just different style.
Just goes at it a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. And he definitely has the team, having fun, playing good ball. So now that said, we'd love for the production to kind of come up with that, but he looks like he's on the right track now. He's hitting some balls hard. At bats look much better.
Yeah, he was just super imbalanced in his swing for the first month, and you pointed it out especially, and we started to notice it a little bit more with his recent at bats. He's getting that front foot down. He's getting his momentum through his lower body. Swing, bat path's looking great. So he's sharpened up his mechanics for sure. So I think you'll start to see dividends offensively from him. Defensively, I mean, fans have been bashing him for whatever reason, but understand he's had a few hiccups, but he's also made quite a few splashy plays, and he's been overall solid for the most part. So I'm not concerned about him defensively. But now his vibe, his aura, even when he's not playing at his best, he's still getting super hyped for his team. Yeah. Like you say, anytime anybody does anything, he's the first one on the field. He's the first one at the top of the stairs. He's the first to be your hype man, even if he's struggling. So yeah, I love the vibes. I wanted him last freaking July. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the two of us and Ricky, we were, begging for him all, second half last season, especially in the off season. The three of us were like, screw Soto. That's not even plausible. Sign Willie.
Yeah. Hey, everyone, check the tape. There's a video from this offseason, but the 2024 offseason of should the Giants trade for him. Yeah. I said yes then. So it's like, I love Willie Adames. He's similar to Chapman. He was one of my favorite non-Giants around the league. Just love the way he plays the game. So
yeah. And he did make a killer defensive play today.
Yeah, he made a great one. He's made, like Dan said, he's made some flashy ones. Has he kicked a few that he wish he could get back? Yeah, of course. Has he been negatively impacted on the stat sheet by a few plays that his first baseman probably should have picked? Yeah, also true. Also watched him get punished for an error because Tyler Fitzgerald didn't run to second base. He ran like behind second base or something. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard to look at those numbers and you just take them for what they're worth.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a guy that's killing him out there. Now, the reality is, on a 7-year contract, is he going to play shortstop all 7 years?
Probably not.
I would say the answer is, you hope the answer is no, in all reality. Yes, from a value standpoint out of the deal, would you prefer he play short that whole time? Yeah, of course you would. But the Giants also have a couple, 17, 18, 19-year-old shortstops in their system that actually have incredible upside that I'd be willing to bet they're really hoping are up in the majors in like 5 years. So yeah, will Adames be a second baseman at the end of this contract? That's very possible. And it's not the end of the world if that is the case.
I was going to say, I could see a realistic scenario in about 5 years, 5 through 7 years from now, when Willie's at the tail end of his contract, when he slides over to second, you got Josh Suarez short. Yeah. I think that's what the team's hoping for.
Yeah. Something, either him, Johnny Level, maybe a big time shortstop becomes available and they actually close the deal on one when Willie's like 35 or 36 and he shifts over. It's not the end of the world. If he plays 2 years as an expensive second baseman, like you knew the risks making a deal like this, that you're really paying him for the front end of that contract.
Yeah.
So entirely possible.
Yes, sir. I want to touch on a couple of these really quick, just because this one's funny. Darius, he's Huff's not Tom Murphy. That's enough for me. Amen, brother. Get that guy as far away from the team as possible.
Tom Murphy, aka the Rube Goldberg of actual professional baseball. Not Rube Goldberg, Rube Baker. My bad.
Yes,
Rube Baker. For those of you that watched, that's seen Major League 2.
How much longer to wait is DFA? If it was up to me, it would have been about a month or two ago. But realistically, it depends on how the next 2-3 weeks works out with all the injuries coming back.
Dan, if it was up to you, it would have been last year.
If it was up to me, it would have been 2 years ago, brother. But yeah, it all depends on how the injuries play out. I mean, the earliest you can see is 2-3 weeks. Otherwise, months down the road. It just really depends on how everything shapes up.
I think he is safe on the first person returning.
Yes, it's the second or third. Yeah.
If you told me Harar, Casey, and Tyler Fitzgerald all returned on the same day, I would put the odds as pretty low that Lamont Wade Jr. survives that day. As a member of the Giants, I would not put the odds in his favor on that one. So we'll see. I don't know the day, but I think it's looming unless he turns it around. I mean, the reality is, as long as he's still starting games, he can turn it around. And if he does turn it around, they're not going to move him. But
that's why I say it's contingent on these next couple weeks. Because if what he's done these first 6 weeks carries over for the next 2, it's a matter of when, not if. So I want to piggyback off this one really quick regarding Bailey. This is the reason why, and I pointed it out to the guys, in the beginning of the offseason, why I wanted Travis D'Arnaud, or D'Arnaud. I never know how to say his last name, but D'Arnaud. I wanted him badly for this exact reason here. So if you got a proven veteran that's competent behind the plate and solid, with the bat, that's giving you no choice but to play him on a daily basis, that's going to light a fire under Bailey's ass. But it's one of these things where you got to draft a college catcher who has, an ETA in about 2 years. Then the pressure's really on.
Yeah.
So,
and that's where most college players, I usually put, it'll take them 3 to 4 years. Like that. That's usually the estimate on trying to get them through. With a first round pick, that usually is a bit accelerated because normally, especially if it's not a high school guy, if you take a college guy, a lot of times those guys basically skip A ball.
Yeah.
Like in that, you saw it with a few different guys in the majors, especially the top half of the first round, where these guys go to San Jose. I mean, even Tibbs for the Giants, he went to San Jose and he went right up to high A. So these guys can move really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't expect a Cam Smith. I don't expect us to draft a catcher and him be starting the following opening day. Like that shouldn't be the case. I just don't. You look at Cam Smith and he's struggled for Houston so far. Though granted, I haven't checked his numbers in a week, so maybe he started hitting, but he had been struggling. I don't expect that out of anyone, but it's not uncommon for these guys to move really quickly. So that's why, to me, it would start about a 1.5 year clock on Bailey. So it does light a fire under him because he knows the team just invested a first round pick in a guy that plays his position, where only one of them can be on the field at any given time. This isn't an outfielder or an infielder where you can play a different position in the infield. Like, they put it at his spot. So that Buster Posey and these fellas like the guy enough to take him in the first round. So it puts pressure on him because, like we mentioned, if he turns into a pretty decent hitter, they'll keep him around. It's just like the Giants did with Buster after taking Tommy Joseph the following year. They'll keep him around because they're going to be like, we know what we have in you. You're a great player. We're going to use this guy because he's an asset to trade for someone.
Yes. And what's that saying? Put up or shut up. Yeah. It's like, it's going to ring true in that case. So yeah, that's going to be the pressure that lights up. So like you said, the three of us are hoping that they make the selection. We would love to get Luke Stevenson, but we'll just see how it all plays out. I want to read this one actually here. You know why?
Okay, guys. So we do actively, regardless of our opinions, I'm going to put this on here, regardless of our opinions and regardless of how, of certain members of Giants media and different shows. Like, I'm not here to like crap on other shows and other people. That's not my style. So, it is what it is there. But the one thing I will say is we don't have a media pass. We don't have intentions of trying to get a media pass. We're not paid by the Giants organization. We're going to call it how we see it. And sometimes it's heaping praise on dudes. And sometimes that is just dragging them through the mud because we don't like the way it's being done. So, yeah.
And I have way too much respect for Cody and his show to put any other content creator or podcast down. But if you want my opinions about anyone, just send me a DM at caveman_Dan97 on X. I will give you my scoop there. But let's read it. Shouts out Nathan, bro. You've been showing a ton of love tonight. Love you guys. We love you too. Giants media all sucks and is boring. His words, not mine. It's sad. Link up with Grant Cohn. That guy. Be controversial and entertaining. We need someone. I know you meant to say Matt Mayoko sucks. Ben Kaspic sucks. Help us, Obi-Wan. You're our only hope.
Yeah.
First off, thanks to love, like I said.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Nathan.
Appreciate that. Like I said, I can't touch on any of these names that you're mentioning just because I respect Cody too much. But if you want my opinion, just ask for it. I got you.
Yeah. They I just have philosophical differences with a lot of the way a lot of people, especially the ones that are very analytical, view the game.
I was just going to say, I don't believe in spreadsheets on Microsoft Excel, and I don't believe in kissing ass. So yeah, I'm going to call it as I see it.
I mean, that's accurate. Like I said, we're not paid by the team. So we're not exactly worried about them kicking us off the airwaves or anything like that. Like we are going to just call it how we see it. And that's how we're going to continue to do it. Harris says Hum Baby and NorCal are cool. Yeah, I have a great relationship with Dan over at NorCal. You guys that have watched them, I've gone on their show dozens of times at this point. It's been a while. Might have to hit them up. But, I respect it when people aren't afraid to say, certain things. And that's similar to me putting out the whole Bailey thing yesterday. To me, you can't be afraid of backlash. And, you know, I put that out knowing full well what was going to come for me, because I know there's a lot of people that are probably his cousins and stuff, that are his relatives, that are going to defend him harder than they defend their own kids and their own spouse. But, you know, some people love that dude, but it just is what it is. You know, just call it how it is.
All I'm going to say is there's a reason why the most notorious accounts on Giants Twitter despise me. So
yeah,
it's for that reason we call it as we see it. So
yep. So any other topics? We're gonna hard stop probably at 9:30 Pacific time for any of you that aren't on the West Coast. So any other topics you guys want us to talk about? You know, throw them in the chat there. You got anything while we're waiting on that, Dan? You got anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I don't want to split the series with Colorado.
I agree.
Win tomorrow. However you got to do it. Win.
Yeah. So. Yeah. This is Colorado, something that's not always talked about. Colorado playing in San Francisco. You know, we've always talked about how much we hate playing in Colorado. Like that's kind of been a house of horrors for the Giants in the past. I think Oracle Park has been even bigger of a house of horrors for the Rockies over the years. I mean, have you looked at the Rockies record in Oracle over the last it's 15 years?
It's been bad, bro.
They have 1 year where they have a winning record. I think 1 year where they might have split. And then every other year it's a losing record. And most of the years, they used to obviously play 9 games most years. Most of the years they go 2-7 or 1-8.
Dude.
Or recently, I think last year the Giants went 7-0 against the Rockies in San Francisco. And the year before it was 6-1.
Even when they had solid teams. Even when they had solid teams, the Helton Cargo days, they still just struggled at Oracle for whatever reason. So, I don't know. Webb versus Marquez.
I'll take your word for it, Darius. I don't know it off the top of my head. I remember looking at it last year, and it's probably something like this.
It's literally something almost identical to that. So, yeah. Tomorrow will be a good day though. Webb versus Marquez day game. What honest takes in sports media? This is new.
Yeah. It's the beauty of being independent, and we just do it because we love to do it and love BSing about the Giants and talking with people, talking with the fans that, as Sabian said, we love talking with the lunatic fringe, we like to all just come in here, vent for a little bit and have some fun,
Yeah. I like to vent.
Yeah. It's Marquez. Is that I'm mentally preparing myself for tomorrow. All I see is 0-5. That's promising. Oh, Jermaine Marquez.
To be honest, Giants are not ready for playoff baseball. They're a first-round exit. I mean, that might be true, but you're absolutely going to be a first-round exit if you don't tighten up the lineup.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think they have the pitching that they could. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean the starters. It's the fact that they have a really, really good bullpen. They were the second ranked bullpen before they kind of been knocked around the last few days, but they were the second ranked bullpen in terms of ERA. You can shorten games. When you do that in October, where you're not necessarily when you treat every game like it's basically do or die, you can shorten a game and basically be we saw the Royals do this in the mid 2010s, won a World Series, almost beat the Giants in a World Series doing this. And then they won the World Series the following year, where they basically were you better get to us in the first 5 innings, because if you don't, this game's over. We're going to shut you down. So the Giants kind of, they would have to operate, I think, in a similar tune to that. So if the offense can scratch 3 or 4 runs, maybe they could win some games. But yeah.
You think Hicks type 1 diabetes affect his pitching outing? Honestly,
I don't know.
It's hard to tell. It's one of those things. He's dealt with it for years as an athlete, so he's accustomed to it. He knows his body. He knows what he needs to do to take care of it. I really just think he doesn't have it in general, mainly physically, to go 6+ innings that a starter needs to.
Yeah.
I just don't think he is built that way.
Yeah.
And it's not a knock on him. It's just who he is. He was a reliever for years, and he's probably best suited to be a reliever. Yeah, he had a solid outing today, but you see he hits a wall once he hits that 5th, 6th inning mark, and he's either going to give up a couple runs or you're going to have to put a Randy Rodriguez in a high leverage situation and high pressure with the bases juiced or with 2 on or something. Yeah. It's one of those things that's ultimately inevitable in each one of his starts. So do I think it's a result of diabetes? I don't know. I don't know him personally. I don't know if that's really affect him. I just think in general, he doesn't have what it takes physically in general to go with the distance.
Yeah. I don't want to speak to the diabetes just because I have no clue. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how it impacts him on a day-to-day basis or when he's out there pitching. But so could it possibly, does it? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate there. But just my honest opinion of Jordan Hicks, when I watch him, I see a guy that struggles to pitch deep into games. He struggles to pitch deep into the year, like consistently deep into games or deep into his season, as evidenced by last season. And this season, I don't think he's going to last more than 130, 140 innings. Just as far as when he's actually on the mound, what I see, he has never been particularly good at consistently getting ahead of hitters. He's never been particularly good about pitching around trouble, defensive miscues, traffic on the bases. When he's in a rhythm, he shows his upside. Mm-hmm. He showed it for 5 innings today. He showed it in Houston. He showed it for the last 6 innings against the Phillies a couple weeks ago. He gets in a rhythm and he shows why people believe in him and are excited about him. But I see the parts where it's like, and I'm not trying to hyper focus on negatives, but what I see is a guy that doesn't pitch around trouble very well. And as soon as it doesn't go well for him, it snowballs.
Yeah.
And that's why you see these implosion innings, almost like clockwork. Every start, there's an inning where it just goes south, and he's not a grinder out there. I guess that's kind of a way I could put it. Like you see games where Webb doesn't have his best stuff, and then he gets a double play ball. Some of these guys, they can get the strikeout when they need it. They find ways where how many times did the Giants face? Who's a good example of this? Because I feel like there was a pitcher that the Giants used to face that they would like constantly have. It felt like they always had his back against the wall and they could never cash in. I'm drawing a blank on who it was. It wasn't Kershaw because he just mopped us every time. But if it comes to me, but like there are certain pitchers that they can get into trouble and they can get out of trouble. They're really good at walking the tightrope, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And he's just not that guy. And is he ever going to be that guy? Who knows? I don't have the faith, but some people might. And I get it because I for 5 innings today, he showed it. Why a lot of people like him. So yeah, we're going to be sitting here trying to figure out who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's what I'm contemplating right now. Like my brain kind of switched off. It's like, all right, we need to think of who this is.
Yeah. Posey gets a bat at the deadline. I think if they are at I think if as it stands, if the team, we'll just assume the current roster construction and performance of how everybody's going right now. If Harar doesn't come in and like do something crazy, I think they're going to get a bat at first base in particular at the deadline.
I'm just trying to think who might be available.
I have no clue. And that's why I said earlier on the show, I'm like, I don't know who they're going to trade for because someone's got to be willing to deal someone. But
Matt Latos.
Hey, you know what? They kicked that door down in the biggest moment. So yeah, but actually Matt Latos is a great example because he was a guy that the Giants seemed to always, they just never could get the big hit until game 5 of the 2012 NLDS. And then Buster Posey said, yeah, enough of that.
Good times.
Good times.
Let me see this. No, I don't trust their bullpen. Webb is not it. He can only be 4 innings also. They can beat the Padres. Now it's a playoff team. The Dodgers not first place, I think. I think it was just that previous game was just a little fluky for Webb. He clearly didn't have his best stuff. But ultimately, he's your ace. I mean, he's going to have a hiccup every now and then, just like most pitchers do. But I want to say that's really a reflection of him.
Yeah, he has, and to some people's points, he's struggled a little bit against good offenses. I mean, but that's why they're good to great offenses, and that's kind of why they are great offenses. It is tough. So I get the rep kind of like I don't think he's quite the cream of the crop when it comes to aces, but I think he's still an ace. Like if you look around the league, are there really like 15 better pitchers than him? Starting pitchers? Probably not. There's probably like 8 that you really truly want in a game one more than him, but I don't know. And you know what, the game against the Padres, they credit them. They got with 2 outs, they basically did all their damage. He just couldn't get that 1 out that he needed when he needed it. So it was a rough outing.
But not overly concerned. But Nathan says 209 Merced. Shouts out to 209. That's where I was born. So shout out 209 Nathan. Thanks for the $2. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Appreciate you, Nathan. Do you guys think free agents don't want to come and play for the Giants because of the way the ballpark is built with those deep fences? I think there are a variety of factors.
Yeah.
I think number one, above everything else, I think money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah.
And the Giants notoriously have not been willing to be the biggest offer by a good amount. Like they'll bet, or they'll bid about the same. They'll match offers. They'll be $1 million or $2 million above, which when you factor in California taxes is like, yeah, no, you're actually offering less money at that point. But they'll come in with similar offers, and I think when all things are equal, hitters are going to look at the yard, they're going to look at the cold, they're going to look at all these different things and be like, why am I taking the same money to go there?
Yeah.
And really, there's not actually a big track record of them chasing free agents during their years when they were winning.
Yeah.
It was, I think Lester is like the only big name they really chased at the time. And that was like 2015.
Lester, Cueto, but
yeah, and they got Cueto. They got pitchers. So, but they didn't really chase anyone offensively, and they used the ballpark as an excuse. But it's like when you're not even putting the biggest offer out there, like can't expect to get these guys to want to come to a park where they're gonna, deal with harsher, things on their numbers. So, I think if you saw a guy like Kyle Tucker is a free agent next season, I think if you put far and away the biggest offer in front of him, I think he'd have a hard time saying no.
Yeah.
Maybe he does. Maybe he's comfortable making whatever wherever else, but I think he would, Carlos Correa, he wanted to take their money.
Yeah.
They put the biggest offer by a bunch in front of him. He wanted to take it. So,
and I think, you look at, Jung Hoo Lee, Adames, and Chapman, who at their best are top 5 at their position. We all brought them in via free agency. So yeah, they're not the, the tier of Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Bryce Harper. They're not like those top guys, but those are still top free agents that you brought in that wanted to be here and that you locked down with a pretty penny. So yeah, hopefully it's the start of something, to come. All I can say, there's a lot of money that's going to get freed off the books this offseason. I've been saying that for months now. And if you have a chance to get Tucker, you absolutely got to pursue it.
Yeah. And Anthony, I'm not betting on them getting him. I'm not. I'm mainly saying they have the financials to throw the biggest offer. And if they're not going to be willing to do that, like it makes the decision for the player.
So, I give the Giants a 5% chance at landing Kyle Tucker. Yeah. But financially speaking, you can absolutely do it and still stay under the CBT.
100%.
So,
and with them doing the, with them getting under the tax this season, they only lose a second if they make that deal next year. So they've positioned themselves to be super aggressive. Now, are they going to be? We'll see. Time will tell there. I
will say the free agent class this offseason isn't going to be that strong. So the biggest name you're
Not
going to have
offensively.
is, definitely not offensively. So the,
Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette, Kyle Tucker, and then, a handful of other guys. But you're also going to have a lot of holes on your 26 man because a lot of contracts are freed up off the books.
Mm-hmm.
Wade, Wilmer, Yaz, they're all free agents, and those are players that you have daily right now. So that's why I've always said that this year is going to be really a developmental year for a lot of your younger guys. You want to see what you got. You want to try to build up the system. It's make or break time for some of these guys that you have, Casey Schmidt, Luis Matos, Marco Luciano, guys like that. Because there's going to be a lot of spots opening up this offseason. So combine that, money off the books, CBT, flexibility. I mean, you can make run at some of these big name free agents if you really want to. It's just got to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, 100%. I think step one, be a winner. Make your team attractive. Yeah, I think that's step one. But the rest of that, be ready to fork out some money if you want to get anybody. Looking at next season's free agency, far and away number one is going to be Kyle Tucker. You got Bo Bichette, Munetaka Murakami. Oh, good. The Dodgers are going to get a new first baseman.
That dude's a beast too. He can slug.
Bregman. And then it's a lot of pitchers: Dylan Cease, Zach Gallen, Framber Valdez, Michael King. That guy's nasty, dude.
I would like I would like that very much.
Yeah. Why would Tucker come?
Money,
buttload of cash.
Yeah,
that would be the reason, and that is the only thing they can really offer. And will they? Who knows?
Probably not. If you win 87 plus games this season, and you approach Kyle Tucker with, "Hey, here's $500 million, and you get to play next to Jung Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos on a daily basis in the outfield."
Oh, and Bryce Eldridge will be up next season, probably.
Yes, I was just going to get there. Bryce Eldridge, one of the best first baseman prospects, will be there. Willie Adames and Matt Chapman on the right side of the infield. And we got Logan Webb still at the helm running things with a solid young core of pitchers in the system. Join us and let's go win.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty tempting, especially you got $500 million on the table. So
yeah, it's definitely an option. We'll do a couple more. Yeah, Anthony, really quick, 100%. It might not get it done. I'm just saying that would be the reason. Would be more money than anybody else by a lot. But some guys turn it down. That's why I said you got to build a winner first. Build a winner, then offer the most money. Just see what happens. And he probably will still say no, but that'd be the only way they have a chance.
He tried.
Yeah. How is Bryce doing?
Good.
He debuted last week, homered in his first at bat, struggled for about the first week, and this week he's been playing really well. I'll be doing an update on him next Tuesday. I usually put out the minor league updates. I think he's hitting like 313 right now. Like he's hitting over 300. Dude hits and special talent.
Yeah. I know.
No comment.
No comment, but
killing me, man. Yeah. And then Jung Hoo Lee wouldn't be. Well, I mean, he would still be the star. I mean, he's still going to be insanely popular. I don't think you need to have one face of the franchise star. Kyle Tucker really has never been a face of the franchise.
No.
Anywhere. He's just kind of universally known as like a top 15 player. I mean, position player. Dude,
Bryce is going to be the face.
Yeah.
So you got a couple faces, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah. Preying on the Cardinals' downfall. Donovan or Nootbaar would be dream deadline trade targets. Yeah. I've liked Lars Nootbaar for a while. He's a solid player. Brendan Donovan, huge potential. It'd be interesting. I think Mason Wins is like the only guy on that roster that they will absolutely not trade. And I think anybody else
probably
for the right price Yeah.
I could see it.
Yeah.
I could see it. Cody's gonna have a cool video dropping this week, though, for all you guys that are interested in, some of the prospects. So
Yeah.
that's all I'm gonna say. He's
And
got a cool one dropping.
yeah, we'll do the update, and then I'm gonna do probably another video regarding the minor leagues next week. Kind of some guys that I think they should be calling up. It's really early in the year, but kind of that first crop of guys that I'm like they need to promote these guys to the next level. So,
And we'll drop a hint. We aren't gonna give away the 5, but one of them is a friend of the channel. So
yeah,
good
one
guy.
of them did. Yeah, one of them we did have an interview with. So you will be hearing about him. And then other than that, we'll just keep grinding at it. And yeah, we have one person big in the minor league game covering the Giants that I'm not telling who, but there is one person that we are working on getting on the show that is not, he said, reach back out to him in mid-May. So that'll be super fun.
That'll be
Not a
coming
player.
up, not a player, but that'll be coming up in a couple weeks. And then I would say anywhere between next 3 to 4 weeks, you might be getting a cool little video with me and Ricky might take a trip out to San Jose. I'm working on getting some on-field interviews with a couple guys. So we'll drop those as individual videos as well, which would be pretty sweet. So
yeah, that'd be a lot of cool. That'd be a lot of fun.
I'm excited for
get
that.
Down to Eugene, man. I'm gonna have to get down there at some point.
That's your territory. Me and Ricky will cover Bay Area. You get down to Eugene.
We got the Northwest League up here. I can go catch some of those. I think this month the River Cats are going to be in Tacoma, so I'll probably catch at least one of those.
There you go.
Usually try and get to a game. So yeah.
So I'm planning on interviewing at least 2.
That's correct, Anthony. Yeah. Grew up down there. Grew up in the Bay Area, but been up here. So yeah, it's 9:30, so we'll probably wrap this thing up. Appreciate everyone that hopped on. For anybody that doesn't already, please hit the sub button if you're on YouTube. If you're watching over on X, jump over to YouTube, hit the subscribe. We appreciate all the support. We've been dropping lots of I know I kind of get miscast, I feel like, as a minor league channel because I do so much minor league stuff. I just like to cover the whole system top to bottom. I think that gives you just the best understanding of the pathways, the Giants, options for trades, what they have coming. It gives you the most knowledge for like trying to think out where they should go and what they should do.
And nobody covers the system. No one covers minor leaguers. Yeah. Even if you try to get updates from the MILB about minor league players, you can't get anything. So
yeah, it's tough. Major League Baseball is terrible about marketing its future. So we tried to do that.
Luckily we got Ricky who just goes straight to the mom.
We may have gotten an update on when the Giants' top prospect was returning via their mom.
Love you, Ricky.
Yeah, that dude has no shame. It's hilarious. But I did also say that Xander was returning before anybody else. So we'll just yeah, we have our sources, sort of.
Kind of, sort of. Zig, you are late. You might want to press rewind. We're about to call it quits right now, but what's up, bro?
Yeah.
That's how we come here. Yeah, that's what we're saying. If no one else is going to cover them, we will. And luckily, that's an expertise of Cody and Ricky. I'm just here to look dumb and crack jokes. So I do a pretty good job at both of those things.
Look pretty.
Yeah. You have so many complaints, Ziggy. You will love our rants. Then we we probably feel the same, bro.
Yeah, we knew there was a fight tonight, but it felt like yesterday with the game and the Warrior game, it was not the night to do it, so we pushed it to today. Yeah. So yeah, a little yeah. So All right, everybody. I know I'm getting tired. I'm pretty sure Dan Mr. Works 70 hours a week over there is getting tired.
Hey, I got my first
And
day off in 6 months today. I felt great.
yeah, he's like, second win, man. Bro. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Like I said, Tuesday we'll have another video. I'll cut the Patrick Bailey segment out, throw that into a video probably for tomorrow. But yeah, we'll have the minor league update next Tuesday. I'm gonna try and record another video next week. We'll have our live show later in the week. Stay tuned for highlights and things like that. I like to still try and get those out. Follow Ricky on Instagram, sfgiantscove. He puts out regular highlights and news and lineups and all the good stuff. So if you're ever just kind of wanting your Giants updates, that's a great spot for it.
I got all their socials on the outro, so that's going to play
Yeah.
here once we call it. So if you want to follow any of them, I plugged all of them on that outro.
Yeah. Dan hooked us up.
You don't need to follow me. I mean, unless you want to. If you like hearing me rant and get everybody riled up, I caveman_Dan 97.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm good at the chaos grenades.
Dan, yeah, definitely follow Dan. Just don't take him too seriously.
Yeah, I am one of the most sarcastic people you will meet, and especially when it comes to just triggering these soft fans on X. Yeah, it's fun for me. So
it's his favorite pastime over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Trolling. Damn. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys. Go Giants. And yeah, we'll catch you next week.